there's one thing we have learned during the pandemic is that the future will always surprise us. And that puts creativity and innovation so much at the heart of everything that we do. These days, education is no longer just about teaching students something, but about helping them develop a reliable compass and the tools to navigate with confidence through an increasingly complex, volatile, uncertain world. Success in education is about identity. It's about agency. It's about purpose. It's about building curiosity, opening minds. It's about compassion, opening hearts. And it's about courage, mobilizing our cognitive, social, and emotional resources to do something, to take action. And that's also going to be our best weapon against the biggest threat of our times now.
Hi, my name is Dr. Stavroula Kalogeris. I work for Tiffin University in the Humanities Department teaching communication and media courses. I am also a scholar of teaching and learning and have published extensively on new practices for higher education. So we are going to talk about hopefully a transformative way of teaching online, combining a few different theoretical threads, principles, tools that will help everyone improve their online teaching. So that is the intent of the presentation today. Now, what is really important first before we begin is to look at a quote from Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein tells us, "I never try to teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn." And that is extremely important, that we provide our students the learning experience and the environment where they can flourish inside and outside of the classroom. Now, we're going to consider constructivism, which is really important to online learning. Okay, so I believe that it's a critical success factor. And basically in this approach, meaning is shared, meaning making between the students and the teachers, and the instructor becomes more of a facilitator, which is really how it should be in higher ed. We're going to look at transmedia storytelling, micro-learning, and the community inquiry model, which is the foundation, the theoretical thread for the presentation. So COI really describes how learning should take place, and it says that learning takes place at the intersection between social, cognitive, and teaching presence. And we'll see how we can improve the COI, and we will see how it forms the foundation of our online approach. So COI was born from Wenger's social theory of learning. It also came out of John Dewey's practical inquiry, which is hands-on experience. And again, it looks at the overlap of presence. Okay, so we need to be present before we can learn. And the presence focuses on teaching, social, and cognitive. So social presence is defined as the degree to which participators in a computer-mediated communication environment feel that they are effectively connected to one another, that they're communicating, and they have rapport so that they can learn. Cognitive presence is conceptualized as the extent to which learners are able to construct and confirm meaning. And then we also have teaching presence, okay, where it's more of our responsibility here to design, facilitate, and direct the learning process. So let's look at the intersections here that are really important. We have social presence, which is student to student, teaching presence, instructor to student, and cognitive presence, which is student to content. So our content that we develop is really important as well. Now, at the intersection here, we have the educational experience, which is basically combining all these elements. And we're going to look at where we can make one of these presence stronger. So the limitation of the model is that of emotional presence. Okay, so according to the COI model, it is seen only in terms of expression. Okay, social presence is only seen as how we are expressing our learning. Now, we need to add to that, because if we want to engage our learners, it needs to go above and beyond this type of presence and get into more of emotional presence. And this is how we will talk about add storytelling to this in a moment. So the work basically argues that emotional engagement is crucial to achieving learning presence. And it's even more critical when we're talking to the black boxes that we have today, right? It's because our students are not coming online as they should be. Now, so here we have the Brady Bunch, okay? And this is the perception of how online learning should be, right? Everyone's on camera and everyone's participating. But what we have is really the reality of online learning, which is just a bunch of black screens. So we're having to talk to this. So how do we engage black boxes? A very difficult task to do, but it is doable. Now here's where transmedia storytelling comes in, and I'll give you a brief background of what transmedia storytelling is all about. So transmedia, you tell the story across platforms and you extend the story basically. Okay, so this can be a learning story, right? Obviously we need to teach by telling story. And story goes back way back with where we had great teachers. If we take it like from a historical perspective, you know, Jesus used stories all the time and he was a master storyteller. So we extend the story world, we extend the lesson in, and we extend it into, it could be a book, it could be a film, it could be a website, it could be a game. Okay, so it engages, stories engage us. We think in story mode, and it's universally appealing. So basically, we will see how this affects our brain and why we actually retain the information of story. Now, here is kind of what we see when we interact with transmedia story, all the different media that we can use to tell our story. Again, here's the 3 C's of transmedia storytelling. We like to personalize stories, characters are important, community is important with fan fiction and so forth, and the convenience and the content. And then we have transmedia in the middle there. Now, transmedia, it can unfold in many different ways. It can unfold by having a movie, which is a self-component, and then you can have a game, and then you can have a book, and so forth. So it's like marketing, where in the past we used to tell the same message across platform. In the new world, we can extend the story and tell different parts of the story on different platforms, which you can see in the traditional franchise, which is below. Okay, so here they stand alone, and it's the same story, but in different venues. And here we are extending the story into different venues. All right, so that's the difference here. In education, we can do both. All right, so transmedia storytelling, okay, we use multiple platforms, and we can use stories, case-based stories, narrative-based stories, scenario-based stories, problem-based stories. It doesn't have to just be transmedia. Game-based stories work here as well. So let's, I'll give you a story presentation now so you can see the difference. The first slide highlights the facts and states on drinking and driving, and the instructor says drinking and driving kills. So that's one way, right? We give a presentation and we just give the facts. The other way, the way that the brain works and the way that it'll process information. Okay, so you can say, this is Anna. She's an amazing person, but her worries make it hard for her to enjoy her life. One day she meets Ahmed, and she is so happy at last, but he is drinking to make his life feel better. And Anna begins to drink with him, even though she has issues with her kidney. Today, happiness looks like this. and a photograph is seen. Drinking and driving kills lives. So you can say it one way with facts and just say drinking and driving kills lives, but you can show it with an image and it's going to be so much more impactful. A story has its own cycle. I'm not going to spend so much time on this. Anyone interested in the practice should definitely learn how to tell a story. We have the backstory of a character, which is in the center. Then the hero, everything is fine in their life. Something disrupts their life. There's an antagonist. They go on a journey. Someone helps them, and in the end, there's victory. Okay, so all stories have this sort of framework. Now, microlearning, on the other hand, is small learning units that are focused. Okay, for online learning, it's really beneficial. Microlearning can work in any subject matter, and the benefit to the learner is the experience, which resembles their media usage. Okay, engaging in social networks and so forth. Now, online learning uses a lot of text-heavy material, so this is why microlearning is really important. So with microlearning, you can download because things are small. It's just easier to use. The content is smaller. Microlearning research is supporting that this is really good for retention. And if you're going to forget information when you visit the content again, you're less likely to forget that information. So again, microlearning self-contained units of content for learning. So many factors influence student engagement, and that is our community, our curriculum, our resources, administration, and the 3 dimensions of engagement are as follows, and I have added a 4th, which I will show you in a moment. So here are the 4 that are here: behavioral engagement, cognitive engagement, emotional engagement, and I'm adding emotional engagement with narrative to this. So students' emotional reaction to the story is what's important, and this is what they will end up learning more with. So stories are universally appealing. Zach argues when we get information through stories, we engage more neurons. As a result, the story is wired into our memory. And then there's an old proverb that says, tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me the truth and I'll believe, but tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. Well, basically means you will retain it. So stories engage thinking emotions. They create a visual imagery. Stories engage our brain, and here is our brain. And more cortical activity is released when we tell a story. So 2 areas of the brain are activated when processing facts, and stories activate many additional areas such as the motor cortex, sensory cortex, and frontal cortex. And then you can see cortisol. The brain releases cortisol when it experiences conflict in the story. So again, you're able to remember. So there's a lot of brain research, neuroscience that supports storytelling for learning, for remembering, for retaining information. So again, we talked about there's many different stories. Now, the idea is to take these stories and create micro stories like the example that I gave you, right, for the online learning experience. So integrating micro stories with micro learning is what we're talking about here today. All right, so micro stories follow the same pattern as your usual story. So the conclusion that I have is that whether instructors teach in synchronous and asynchronous ways, the community inquiry model is extremely beneficial. Add transmedia storytelling to that model. You will engage your learners in an online space where we can engage our learners to recall and retention. Thank you so much.
If you had invested $100 in Netflix when it first listed on the stock market,
As part of the program Odysseus of the e-learning lab, our presentation's topic has the title The Pedagogical Utilization of Land Art and the Role of ICT on the Encouragement of Primary School Students' Creativity. Generally, the aim of the project Odysseus is to build up a collaborative learning environment in order to cultivate creativity and critical thinking skills for elementary school students from Greece and Cyprus. Since 2000, more than 4,000 primary school pupils from Greece and Cyprus have participated in Odysseus project with national and European distinctions. The e-learning lab was founded under the name Laboratory for Advanced Learning Technologies in Lifelong and Distance Learning within the Department of Primary Education at the University of Crete. E-learning lab aims to serve the educational and research needs in the fields of lifelong learning and e-learning with emphasis on the pedagogical implementation of advanced learning technologies and social networks to all types and levels of education. Since its foundation, the e-learning lab has significant contribution to the educational community, consisting of distance learning programs for the professional development of teachers, connecting the local community through lifelong education activities, and encouraging exchanges of best practices among educators and other entities regarding the pedagogical implementation of ICT. Our presentation is an attempt to determine the impact of ICT on encouraging the creativity of students of collaborating primary schools in the context of interactive educational teleconferences during the school year 2018 till 2019. In the framework of the program Odysseus 2019, students and 4 teachers from Kissamos of Hania and Adele of Rethymno plan and implement collaborative distance learning activities via teleconference. Through the proposed methodology, the participants explore, discover, and collaboratively build their knowledge on the topic of internet safety. In addition, this research aims to explore the enhancement of creativity through land art, the enhancement of creativity through ICT, and how land art connects with ICT. The analysis of the quantitative and qualitative data of the research is expected to show the development of creativity. The method that will be used in the present research is mixed, the combination of quantitative and qualitative research techniques, with action research elements. Finally, it should be noted that the processing of data to draw conclusions has not been completed yet. The presenters will be Mr. Panagiotis Anastasiadis, Professor of Lifelong and Distance Education with the use of ICT in the Pedagogical Department of the University of Crete, and Alexios Panoudaki, a preschool teacher and a PhD student in the same department of the University of Crete.
Hi, my name is Steve Sherman, and I am the Chief Imagination Officer for an educational NGO called Living Maths. We are based in Cape Town, South Africa, and we go into schools and run an extramural program where we promote problem solving, creativity, critical thinking skills, critical analysis, and basically we show students how to have fun with the idea of mathematics. Apart from that, we're also very involved with other STEM activities, whether it be coding, robotics, engineering. We take part in all the national science festivals and national science and maths weeks, and we are very involved with various NGOs and organizations helping to promote STEM to young students. This was all pre-COVID. When COVID came along, things changed. Most people felt that this was a stumbling block. For me, I thought it was a stepping stone. We had always hoped to reach more people and perhaps even start franchises in other cities, other provinces, other countries. And with everyone going digital and having online lessons, it then became the natural progression. We were able to reach a much larger audience. At one point during the beginning of COVID, in March or April, we opened up online classes and we were teaching 1,200 kids a week. Once we knew we could do that, we started to launch our own official program so that we could encourage kids to think creatively, to think outside of the box, lateral thinking problems, rebus type questions, graphical questions that require a student to see it from a different perspective. We looked at a wide variety of different modalities to present this content, and we found that the digital avenue was actually far richer than most people realized. As someone who happened to be quite comfortable with EdTech, I was quite happy to start exploring the different educational technology tools that are available to start to enhance my teaching in the classroom. We are also involved with other initiatives. For example, the Imagination Foundation. Now, the Imagination Foundation was started off because of a young kid, Kane, who happened to have started an arcade during his summer. He built an entire arcade out of cardboard boxes. A film was made about it which went viral, and all of a sudden funds were raised to send Kane to university, to pay for all his schooling. It was just such a phenomenal exercise, and the money that was raised also went into starting the Imagination Foundation. And we would have weekly sessions where we got kids to use their creativity. Examples of activities would be giving the students 30 ice cream sticks and then some elastic bands, and they had to build something that could launch a marshmallow as far as possible. We would also look at combining robotics and electronics, making things using Makey-Makeys, and one of our projects was selected by Google, where they sent down a team to come and film us in Cape Town, showcasing the incredible Arduino kits that we had and how we managed to build a device that could measure the speed of a wind turbine. And we were able to adjust the wind turbine to spin even faster, and we were able to record all of this on an app on a cell phone, which is why Google was so interested in it. We've done so many fascinating projects, getting involved with science fairs and expos and doing many presentations ourselves, and I've always found that creativity is critical. Students who just do sums can't think outside of the box. We also run an International Maths Olympiad. Not your standard Olympiad questions. We like to give questions that encourage the students to think outside of the box. And we have found that regular math students don't always fare so well in this Olympiad, but the students that think creatively and outside of the box certainly do. So this pandemic could have been a complete downer. It could have ended all our work, and it could have been the final nail in the coffin to all our projects. But instead, it was actually an open door. We were confident enough to take the steps to walk through that door, and I believe that the fruit that the tree of creativity will bear for us is yet to come.
Hello, I am Corrado Falcolini, Associate Professor in Mathematical Physics in the Department of Architecture at Roma Tre University. I've been a curator of several science festival exhibits in Rome and Genova, and involved in more activities for high school students and teachers. My main interests are in Hamiltonian systems, analytical properties of maps, history and innovation, mathematical teaching, modeling in three-dimensional surveys. Today I will talk you about a tribute to Roger Penrose, how to make an aperiodic plane tessellation kit at a distance. This has been an activity in collaboration with a lab at my Department of Architecture of Roma 3. I participated to the Maker Faire in Rome last year, December, at the first digital edition of this fair, with a project for high school students. This Maker Faire and how has it changed during the pandemic.
Awesome street, awesome camera, basket, battery life, it's wash, water.
Well, these are pictures of the previous fair, previous edition. In the fair, the key point has always been to meet, to touch things, to try, to build, and so a mass gathering absolutely unacceptable in COVID time. But in last December, we thought about new opportunities, and we tried to make a connection between students, teachers, and architecture lab in order to construct a kit for tessellation. So the tribute is the mathematician Roger Penrose, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in physics, and for his studies in black hole formation. But the tribute concerned one of other of his inventions. So the invention of a very special tessellation, which in his own words was made of only two types of tile, but the contact rule of the pieces will make this puzzle, the tessellation, not repetitive. So as the pattern grows with more and more pieces, there is always something new which emerges, and also for larger and larger region found with a fivefold symmetry that he said was particularly striking. So these are the two tiles, which are called the dart and the arrow, and you can see the colored arcs which provide the contact rule. So you can join two tiles by along the sides of the same length with matching arcs of the same color. So this is an example which is correct or not allowed. Following the contact rule, one can fill the space around any vertex. For instance, in the red central, you can see with two darts and three arrows that we can fill exactly the space. The tessellation could eventually goes to fill the full plane. What do we get from here? Well, we get an aperiodic plane tessellation with many realizations with very different final pictures, and a striking appearance of local fivefold symmetry at different scale. The possible configuration around any vertex are only 7, which are shown here, and the Perros tiling, unlike a jigsaw puzzle, as all pieces are copies of just 2 special pieces, and the final picture can depends on multiple choices with any new pieces which is added. In fact, as a curiosity, the demand for jigsaw puzzle is surging as coronavirus keeps millions of people indoors. Here are 2 examples, one with one more symmetrical and another one, say, random. The project was to understand the geometric construction of the 2 tiles with the students, learn to communicate the corresponding instruction to a cutting machine, and then play making tessellation using the produced tiles or simulate the tessellation on a computer using GeoGebra. I can say only that the geometric construction is not so difficult. It can start with a regular pentagon and fixing 2 vertices and the central angle of 72 degrees, and then construct 2 circle with radius which is in a golden ratio with the previous one, and 2 more circle to make the arcs. For the dart, and the same thing for the arrow, changing only 1 vertex. And these are the shapes, and these are the 2 pieces. So with the rule, if you can use this rule in a cutting machine, in a laboratory, or sometimes in the school directly, you can make a lot of pieces, and here, for example, some students in the architecture department played with these pieces. Here are the 7 vertices possibility, and here you can see these students which try to reproduce the very symmetrical design that I showed you before. You can see the beauty of the design. You can see that the color, in fact, are only more. The cut is larger or smaller, which produce the difference in colors. In this case, I want to arrive also to see the picture of the cutting machine in the laboratory that we have in our department, and so some trial in the production of the tiles. Here you can see the GeoGebra file and the reproduction of the other less symmetrical tilings, and inside the program GeoGebra it is possible to teach the students to produce their own program, making the new shape, and learning how to teach GeoGebra to use it. So this is the end of the story, and I am waiting for classes and students to play the game, to construct the tiles, and to learn some geometry and some mathematics. Special thanks to Laura Teteschini Lalli And thank you to all of you for your attention. Goodbye.
Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Tusharani and I'm from Malaysia. My presentation today is entitled Getting Artsy, Exploring Language Arts in the New Norm. Before I proceed, a bit of information about myself. I am currently attached to the Teacher Education Institute, Malay Language Campus based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm a senior lecturer and also the head of the English language unit. My research interests includes TESOL, semiotics, multimodality, popular culture, creative pedagogies. This sharing session actually looks into how I explore my language arts subject during the new norm. Usually it is a face-to-face interaction in a physical setting, but this semester I had to teach them online, and we will look into some of the ways that I explored to do this. When we talk about language arts, the main genre that I actually taught this semester were stories, drama, and poetry. Moving on, stories. Stories are embedded in storytelling, and I have a few activities usually lined up. One of them is to get the students active. So here, what I do is to get them move when they hear certain words. For example, if we are exploring fairy tale during that particular lesson, I would say words like big bad wolf, and they have to move like a big bad wolf. Or if I say rabbit, they might just hop up, hop around or jump up and down. This is important simply because it gets them activated and it gets them alert during the subsequent hours. I also make my students produce own stories because it's important for them to have ownership, and I also proceed from these to alternate endings where students come up with their own different endings to popular stories. What I do next is to ask them to upload their versions, their products on YouTube. And usually my students create stories using Flipperclip and InShot. These are the two popular apps that they like to use. And here is a screenshot of one of my students' work. And this is particularly a story of the shepherd and the king. Moving on, I also continue my classes with craft activities which are done after class hours. This is also important because students need to prepare props for their coming productions, and sometimes being away, they come up with their own props like masks, and in this instance you can see this particular student making bookmarks based on the characters of Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. We move on to poetry. Poetry is a difficult genre actually for many students, at least mine. So I get them inspired and then come up with their own write-ups, record and upload their works. One of the things that I do is to use visuals to stimulate to actually think beyond what they actually see every day. So I get them to analyze visuals, and for this semester we actually looked into art pieces and works of Frida Kahlo, Edvard Munch, and Vincent van Gogh, and they had to interpret these paintings and write their own versions, interpretations of poems. And this is actually a very good higher order thinking skill kind of activity. I also make them explore various forms of poetry, from haiku to limericks to shape poetry to free verse, simply because different students' ability would be able to explore different types of poems. And finally, dramatization. These students also dramatize their own poems or even other poets' work, and they upload them again on YouTube or even TikTok. So here is one image that I used in my class, Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. And this is a work of one of my students. And as you can see, she has interpreted starry nights, and with the use of words like night, sky, it's very apt to the image that she analyzed earlier. TikTok, what can I say about TikTok? I'm definitely not a TikTok person, but my students are, and hey, what better way to motivate and encourage them than to use something that they are so familiar with. My students use TikTok a lot in their classrooms, and they upload again on YouTube. So YouTube is very popular with people these days, youngsters, to upload all kinds of production work. These are some of my students' work uploaded on YouTube. Here, Haziq actually created his own poem, and here Chan actually used InShot, and then she uploaded it on YouTube. So these are all poetry recitals. Drama is also another important element I explored and exploited during my language arts lessons this semester. One of the things with drama is it's difficult to kind of teach it online, because you always see them physically during your traditional classes. So one of the things that I do is to make them make faces to get them warmed up, so it can be a show of emotions, it could be a show of actions. I also have this activity called Together We Gather, where I get students to act out a combination of words they hear. So I might say angry nurse, and they have to act out how an angry nurse would be in front of their screens. And these two kind of explores their emotions once again, and also to get them talking at times. You could explore with tongue twisters, mime. These are just some suggestions when you're teaching online. And then I also look into skits, because my students go through various emotions, and various themes are suitable for them. So being older students, this semester they explored themes like bullying and loneliness. And this is again a screenshot from one of their presentation, and all these students, 3 of them, presented a skit on bullying, which was then uploaded on Instagram and shared on YouTube. And finally, this is an example of my student's work, and she actually shared this on TikTok. A shape poem. And yes, there you have it. A poem entitled COVID-Free World. How apt is this even in these times? And finally, what do I do? Students need appreciation, and one of the ways to motivate them is to showcase their work. I use Padlet, and as you can see, these are all their works. Here I have my student Pui reciting one of William Henry David's greatest work. And yes, they comment on each other's work. They kind of sometimes even criticize each other's work, but positively, but all in good fun and in good intentions. So that is how I have conducted my language arts class this semester, and I hope I have given ideas on how you viewers could also do some of the things that I've done. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at my email that I've given there. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Olaide Odederon and I'm a director at Dyslexia Nigeria. We're a non-profit organization based in Lagos in Nigeria, and we educate, convene and empower stakeholders in Nigeria and in Africa to create an environment where dyslexics can thrive. Today I'm going to be talking about our efforts to optimize outcomes for inclusive education and dyslexia during COVID-19. I'll be sharing with you some of the challenges we've come across and creative ways we've gone about addressing them. As educators around the world know, COVID-19 brought the opportunity for us to embrace technology as a platform to provide quality, equitable education to those millions of children around the world. However, we also know that efforts for inclusive education have been largely based on one-on-one interactions over time, and that's where we still are mostly. Technology has not been able to address that during this time, and is something we've struggled with. So even though I'm going to go through a full presentation, I will invite you now and again at the end of my presentation to take a step back and think about how technology can be used to enhance inclusive education in particular for the many children who struggle with learning difficulties and disabilities around the world. But I'll start with some basics. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is a Greek word that means difficulty with words, and basically that's difficulty with language, reading, writing, and spelling. It's a specific learning difficulty, which means that it doesn't affect your intelligence or other areas of your academics if you're a student, but it's specific to language and literacy. It's present at birth because it's brought about by the way the brain is structured, and therefore it's a lifelong challenge. However, because it's lifelong does not mean that it cannot be managed and its challenges overcome. We know that with conventional teaching methods it's not improved, but with specific interventions we can mitigate its challenges and give children with dyslexia around the world the opportunity to achieve their full potential. Talking about that full potential brings me to strengths of dyslexia that we see in so many successful individuals all around the world. Individuals with dyslexia are very creative people. They are very good at spatial awareness. They generate great creative ideas. They're excellent entrepreneurs as well. They're very dogged and can withstand a lot. And those are characteristics that are particularly specific to them. Examples, we have Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs of Apple, Richard Branson of Virgin, those in the arts like Whoopi Goldberg, Jennifer Aniston, Jamie Oliver, Keira Knightley, and the list goes on and on. But how does this tie to inclusive education? For us to think about this, I'm going to draw your attention to the Sustainable Development Goals, and specifically the fourth one that asks us to look at access to equitable, inclusive, quality education. And under that, there's a requirement that we also provide this for children with specific learning difficulties, which, as you now know, dyslexia is part of those. But also, if you look at another part of it that asks us to include persons with disabilities, those with dyslexia also fall under this category. The UK's Equality Act provides a very good platform for us to see why this is so, as it also classifies individuals with dyslexia as those with disabilities. So how does Dyslexia Nigeria facilitate inclusive education for children with dyslexia? We do this through a range of services that allow children with dyslexia to gain proper access to the curriculum and to then perform at or above grade level. I start with awareness. We create awareness in schools through reaching primary stakeholders, so we reach students themselves, teachers, special education needs coordinators, academic managers, heads of schools. And after creating awareness, we do universal screening. So we go into schools and screen all children in entry-level classes for dyslexia to see if they do show signs of dyslexia and might be at risk and need some support. After that, or even before that, depending on where the school is, we also provide training to teachers so that they can provide evidence-based interventions to children who are at risk of dyslexia. In the event that children do show extensive signs of dyslexia, we welcome them to our Center for Extensive Assessment and Profiling so that we can identify their unique profile of strengths and weaknesses and can recommend tailored interventions and courses of action for them to take. One-on-one tuition is one of the ways that we can then support after diagnostic assessments are complete. So now that you have an idea what Dyslexia Nigeria does, you can imagine how COVID-19 impacted on our efforts to facilitate inclusive education. I'll take you through a few of them. Before COVID, we could go into schools to provide awareness to all stakeholders, particularly to students as well. But with COVID happening, schools were closed several months on end, we were all in lockdown, and it was impossible to go into schools to deliver awareness talks. We used to be able to go into schools to also conduct universal screening that brought about broad-based early identification of children that could have dyslexia. But that was also halted because of the lockdown. Again, schools were closed and it was absolutely impossible to go in there to conduct any screening. At our center, we used to hold trainings for all stakeholders up to 4 times a month. But again, with the lockdown, that couldn't happen. And with considerations for social distancing, it was very difficult to bring that to life, even when the lockdown was eased off. Before COVID happened, individuals with dyslexia could walk into our center for a diagnostic assessment and to sit with a professional one-on-one to go through a battery of tests that allow us to diagnose dyslexia. Those were negatively impacted during COVID. There were a number of aspects of our services we could put online, but assessments are really made up of both paper-based tests and computer-based tests, and it was impossible to put paper-based tests online, so those were seriously affected. That's a really big problem because without a proper diagnosis and evidence diagnosis as well from a professional, individuals with dyslexia might struggle to get the support that they need from their organizations and institutions. And finally, we used to be able to conduct one-to-one tuition in our center, but again, with lockdown and social distancing requirements, that was also halted. How did we address all of these? I think the first thing I'd like to say before talking about how we addressed it is that there actually was some positive from remote learning. With parents working a lot from home and being the children's online learning, they could all observe their performance and aspects of learning that they struggled with. And therefore, they became very keen to find solutions. So this brought them one step closer than they used to be, where schools used to be between the students and their parents in terms of performance most of the time. This was a huge positive that we capitalized on. For starters, we enhanced our digital awareness efforts. We were able to successfully reach a large part of our critical stakeholders online to continue to create awareness about what dyslexia is and signs that it can manifest as. And we instituted and enhanced our Ask Dr. AD series, where our stakeholders could ask our diagnostic assessor questions and get answers. But it still remains difficult to reach students directly. It's something that we have to resume now that schools are reopening. We could share dyslexia checklists to support identification very widely so that parents and guardians everywhere could really see what the common signs of dyslexia are and be able to identify them in their children so that they can take next steps. With our online training, what we did was take all our modules from our in-person training and work with an online learning company to convert all of those materials to online modules so people could access them all over the world. Working with parents and their children in center more closely in this time, we've noticed and observed just how much emotional impact there is to diagnosing a child with dyslexia. And so we've stepped up and started to provide coaching services to both parents and children so that they can accept and successfully integrate a lot of our recommended strategies. In terms of our one-to-one tuition and our assessments, we now have kids who can come into the center from time to time, and we've instituted COVID-19 safe protocols in the center for conducting all of these. But there's one part that we still struggle with, and that's assessments. This is where we're inviting the rest of the education community to really begin to help us think through and work with us as we think through how we can use technology to enhance inclusive education in terms of assessments for dyslexia and perhaps other specific learning difficulties that require similar use of paper-based testing. This is where we're asking you to please think about how we could perhaps convert some of these to online materials and online engaging interactions that could allow us to continue to assess dyslexia from a distance. And with this, as I come to a close, I acknowledge and appreciate all educators for putting in so much effort to continue to bring quality education to kids around the world in such trying times. And as I wrap up, I invite you, please contact us. We'd love to hear from you at Dyslexia Nigeria. You can contact me at olaide.adedinwa@dyslexianigeria.com, and you can reach us in all of these ways on screen via email, or you can visit us or call us. We'd be delighted to hear from you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
On behalf of Team Silicon City Academy, I extend a warm welcome to one and all. Silicon City Academy of Secondary Education is located in serene, green environment in the southern part of bustling city of Bengaluru, India. Our school is distinctive for an infrastructure which conforms to international education standards. We believe in offering students the very best of integrated learning experience and facilities in a holistic manner. Along with academic excellence, sports and co-curricular activities are given equal importance. No wonder our school has been ranked #1 top CBSE schools parameter-wise for holistic development by Education Today India Merit Awards 2020. At Silicon City Academy, education is an experiential, holistic, integrated, character-building, inquiry-driven, discovery-oriented, learner-centered, discussion-based, flexible, and best of all, joyful experience. A parent is a teacher at home, and a teacher is a parent in school, and the child is the center of our universe. As you know, like everything else, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the education sector significantly. It has altered the way education will be imparted from now on. For the past 15 years, our school has been in the forefront in adopting innovative strategies and latest technology in the field of education. Today, it's no different. From the day lockdown announced, our team has been working tirelessly, employing all resources to ensure that our children get the very best of virtual learning experience. It gives me immense pleasure to share with you all Creativity During Pandemic, a unique success story.
Creativity is the ability to create something new, something unique. Creativity is about a limited amount of input and unlimited output. At Silicon City Academy, we use creative ideas that are fun, fast, and free. We begin each day with a quick activity or exercise on creativity. Example, teacher selects an object and asks students what else it could be, or what else it could be used for, or what it can be turned into, etc. For example, a teacher's desk can be flipped upside down and turned into a boat, etc. These activities instill creativity in our students. As a part of co-curricular activities, we have conducted various activities: show and tell, Little Master Chef, science magic, album making, fun with science, crazy hat making, to name a few. Children are budding stars. The more you embrace them, the more they shine. Young Siliconians enthralled everyone with their breathtaking performances.
The COVID-19 pandemic resulted in an abrupt change in the routines and various other activities around the world. It's hard not having that human contact with the children. We were successful in channelizing students' boundless energy into creative pursuits. Various art forms were integrated with different subjects and languages. Children at Silicon have the freedom to express the learned concepts through various art forms. Videos related to the topic were shared earlier to the students, and the classroom time was effectively utilized for discussion and exploration for better concept clarity. Flipped classroom gives scope for independent working skills and makes students more self-supporting.
Failure is an integral part of learning, but in the classroom, it tends to be a source of shame and embarrassment. However, if you have seen a 12-year-old constantly replaying a video game despite countless game over screens, you will know games change the dynamic. They don't just make failure seems okay, they also make it a part of the fun. Gamification in education has the same benefit. Gamification encourages students to reattempt learning tasks without embarrassment. During this pandemic, we wanted to break the monotony in the classroom. We strive to make learning more interactive and engaging. This is what augmented reality technology does. It helped teachers to get the attention of students in no time and also increase the engagement levels as well. So here we have used AR in classroom to build circuit and test, plot and evaluate VI graphs to derive and state Ohm's law, which was a great substitute for the actual lab. We also used PhET interactive simulations to balance the chemical equations by adding the coefficient to the skeletal equations, thereby gaining the mastery over it with a lot of fun. Benefits of using this gamification and AR includes increased content understanding, physical task performance, collaboration, and student motivation, and so on.
2020, a year like no other. Empty classrooms and vacant corridors in our school. But one thing kept us awake all through 2020 is how do we ensure learning does not stop in our school? Technology helped us and learning did not stop. So what next? What is our next normal? What will learning look like 2021 onwards? Of course, it won't be anything as 2019 studying at school and certainly not as 2020 studying at home either. It will probably be a blend of both enabled by the power of technology. Children will go to school with a smile on their face and they will also have a learning experience from and through technology. Not breaking, but blending the walls of classroom and home under the human connect. Blended learning, the way future will learn going forward. At Silicon City Academy, we will be blending the boundaries of school and home as we are committed to bring a radical transformation in learning.
In this pandemic, teachers have shown great leadership and innovation in ensuring that learning never stops and no learner is left behind. Along with students' creativity, teachers' creativity was also at its best. Team Silicon City have to be commended for working round the clock, bringing in the best virtual experience, Waves, digital magazine. Click on the link to view the same. With the launch of the new National Education Policy 2020, we are at the cusp of huge transformation and about to participate in and witness path-breaking changes in the way we learn, the way we teach, and the way we build capacities of educational stakeholders. At Silicon City Academy, our primary goal for our students is to promote learning, inspire them to bring out their best, and help them to become productive members of the community. To fulfill our goal of developing successful students, we are committed to work with all our stakeholders in planning and building a school community where students strive as they enhance their learning capabilities. When we build knowledgeable, empathetic, productive, and contributing citizens, we are engaging in nation building. We at Silicon City are committed to become the architect of vibrant school education that ensures development of unique potential of each learner and to provide a safe and stimulating learning environment.
Hello, my name is Svetlana Belic-Malinic and I'm an academic director at the Institute for Contemporary Education, a member of Link Educational Alliance located in Belgrade, Serbia. Hello from Serbia. I'm a teacher trainer, but also a lifelong learner, and I've been sharing my learning and teaching enthusiasm with so many people around the world. I ideated a lot of educational projects, some of them were deliverables at the state level, and I'm so very proud of that. Ever since I completed my PhD in International Education at the University of Leicester, I've been a fierce advocate of creativity, creative teaching and creative thinking. Actually, my PhD thesis explored how teachers can reinvent their pedagogies, how they can sprinkle a little bit of creative ideas that emerged from peer collaboration and reciprocal coaching. I'm also a Cambridge International Specialist, an accredited program leader for Cambridge Professional Development Qualifications, where I help teachers think outside the box, think creatively, right? I help them reinvent their pedagogies, learn from their teaching experiences, distress and truly enjoy what they're doing. I'm so very grateful for such an opportunity. My pedagogical contributions have been greatly appreciated. I've been nominated for the Global Teacher of the Year Award. I'm also a recipient of John Haycroft Scholarship for Classroom Exploration, and I inspired teachers to think creatively, to teach creatively, especially in this region. Today, I'm here to inspire you. I'm here actually to take you on a quest. I'm going to show you a wonderful world of metacognitive creativity. Are you ready?
Suomessa saa koronarokotteen ihan kaikki, mutta tietysti siihen menee vähän aikaa ennen kuin kaikki sen saavat. Ikääntyneet ovat ikänsä puolesta jo suuri.
A very wise man, the one who inspired me to talk about metacognitive creativity today, said that when our running national educational systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make, and the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. This is such a pity, isn't it? According to the World Economic Forum, upskilling and reskilling in the next 5 years will be a global demand, and creativity is one of the most important skills. In response to these trends, the 2022 PISA survey will place a great emphasis on the creative thinking and individuals' malleable ability to generate new ideas, not only to learning contexts, but also to the areas where the generation of ideas is necessary to explore issues, problems, or, society-wide concerns. But how does creativity work in the first place? Creativity involves putting your imagination to work. In a sense, creativity is applied imagination, holds Ken Robinson, who strongly believed in creativity as a changing paradigm. To think creatively, we generate ideas and let them incubate for a while. And while they're cooking, they will get sprinkled with inspiration before the aha moment known as illumination. With all these brilliant ideas in mind, we can now try them out and verify the application in reality. Key to creative thinking are questions, and Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler did not solve an old problem, they asked a new question, and in doing so they changed the whole basis on which the old questions had been framed. And when asking questions, you should try putting different hats on. You can change your perspectives and create new solutions to situations, issues, or problems. Use these hats to bring creativity to your teaching. Teaching for creativity involves teaching creatively. There are 3 related tasks in teaching for creativity, and these are encouraging, identifying, and fostering. So, how to teach creativity? Would you use only the right side of your brain where creativity grows? What if you're not creative at all? There is no such thing as a creative type. We are all creative, every one of us. We just need a bigger definition of creativity. To teach creatively, simply put the hats on. Use any prompts around you to illuminate new paths to learning. Teachers who love teaching teach students to love learning. And to inspire them, show them where to look, but not what to see. Grow their minds, but also grow their hearts. Let your students tap into intrinsic motivation. Assign them tasks they like to do enthusiastically. Let them embrace their choice and own that learning. Provide scaffolding along the way. Empower students to match the challenge level to their ability level. Try to minimize distraction, as this might help your students focus on that learning. And finally, encourage metacognition. But how does metacognition work? Metacognition is often an overlooked component of learning, yet it empowers students to learn planning and goal setting while monitoring their own progress. When challenged, they should put their hats on and assess the task, evaluating strengths and weaknesses, and plan how to proceed. While discovering alternatives to their learning strategies, they engage in creative thinking and let their ideas illuminate a path. And the more freedom and support they get along the way, the more creative they grow. Therefore, when creating tasks to foster metacognition, we have to think of how to balance challenge and skill levels. When we strike the right balance, the students are in the state of flow. They like what they do and they do it enthusiastically. They're happy, and happy students learn best. However, if the challenge level is at high and students somehow struggle with their skills, then we create learning anxiety, which is obviously not good. On the other hand, if there is a little challenge and students are quite skilled, they get bored. It is therefore important to inspire students to think about thinking and learn about learning. Students process metacognition in various ways. Tacit students are unaware of learning and quite indifferent to acquiring new knowledge. Students who are aware of metacognition might use some strategies such as, finding evidence or correlations, but their efforts are not deliberate or planned. Strategic students use high-order thinking skills to generate creative alternatives, but they do not learn beyond good grades. Reflective students go a step further. They are curious, inquisitive, and understand the value of evaluation and adaptation. Now they ask new questions and think outside the box. Sir Ken Robinson reminds us that learning happens in the minds and souls, not in the databases of multiple choice tests. Now that we understand how creativity and metacognition work, how to foster metacognitive creativity, now, you want to inspire students to think about ways to bring about creativity and creative thinking. You want them to reflect about how to own creative ideas and follow their flow. First of all, assign tasks which are intrinsically rewarding. Then set clear goals and develop a sense of progress. Also make sure to provide clear and immediate feedback. Allow your students to own their learning and understand how personal control or agency affects the task. Help them understand what is going on and focus on how much they know now. So let's go back to the metacognitive cycle and see what it looks now with this kind of a creative thinking twist. So you would assess a task, but with a state of flow in mind. You would adjust challenge and skill levels to ignite intrinsic motivation and learning enthusiasm. You would use the 6 hats to evaluate your tasks and give them various perspectives. Then plan by incubating and illuminating ideas. Don't be afraid to let them swarm and buzz around. Use feedback when applying and adapt accordingly. Reflect on the progress and allow yourself to make mistakes. After all, they're part of the learning process. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you will never come up with anything original. I teach metacognitive creativity. What's your superpower?
A warm welcome from the TAS team to all those who have joined us today to be a part of this event. When COVID-19 hit us in March 2020, none of us in our wildest dreams had ever thought that this would dramatically alter the existing education system. While these unprecedented times led to all of us being physically cooped up, they also provided us with once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to open the vistas of our mind and come up with innovative methods to suit the pressing needs of our online teaching and learning requirements. The journey was challenging, and thanks to the resilience and thoughtfulness of the team, we found ways and means to reinvent ourselves to fulfill our commitment to our learners, to nurture and empower them as they went ahead to attain their own personal goals. We could not have asked for a better teacher than the pandemic to instill in our student and teacher community the necessity to persevere in the face of setbacks and failures. The online mode has presented us with many vistas and platforms to strive towards our school mission that remains unchanged, to create an environment of joyful learning, to inspire a passion for excellence in our students, thus enabling them to achieve their full potential. None of this would have been possible without a strong set of core values that constantly guides us to uphold and strengthen our school culture.
At TAS, we believe that our core values act as a beacon to guide us in our day-to-day affairs and dictate how we perform, work, and conduct ourselves. All TASians are guided by the core values of independent thinking, integrity, nation building, empathy, and self-actualization, to name just a few. We strive to send out into the world independent thinkers who are courageous enough to make well thought through decisions without the fear of failure. The learners and facilitators work on their curiosities, nurture a positive mindset, and encourage them to take ownership of the task that they are working on. The school aspires to help every student harness their full potential as per their abilities while directing them towards excellence. We live in an increasingly independent world. TAS aims to send out into the world global citizens who can innovate, act responsibly, and work in harmony to embrace global competencies and challenges. We aim to teach and enrich an environment of compassion and peace. We firmly believe that individuals with an intrinsic reverence for life can be more successful problem solvers and change makers. We aim to push students to pursue their dreams and be empathetic enough to help disadvantaged citizens achieve their goals. We embraced the challenges that these unprecedented times have handed us. This pandemic has allowed us to introspect, evaluate, and modify our existing teaching, learning, and assessment practices to suit the need of the hour. I now invite my friends to shed some light on how we have worked our way through 2020-21. Thank you.
As all of us know, the academic year 2021 brought many challenges to schools, teachers, children, and parents, expecting them to adapt to new teaching method and learning in the conditions imposed by COVID-19 pandemic. Attending online classes has become the new normal for students. We ensured that our students enjoyed all the activities done during physical classes. Some activities that helped our children explore their creativity through homemade dough. They learned about counting while clipping cloth pegs to a scarf. They also learned about eating healthy, different types of fruits and its texture while exploring their creative side. They also learned the all too important virtue of cultivating patience while carrying out a planting activity.
Games and events enhance child's physical, social, cognitive, and emotional well-being. One of the events held was Fancy Dress, where children were dressed as their favorite food. It offered them a chance to use their imaginations, build vocabulary skills, and gain confidence. Experience of first virtual fun day was exceptional, as after a long time, children got an opportunity to play with their friends in this pandemic situation. Celebrations promote a feeling of oneness, cooperation, and understanding of our traditions and customs. Sharing few events that we celebrated this year. Indian Heritage Festival, that is Lord Krishna's birthday, Independence Day, and Traditional Day. Virtual tour of our school refreshed our students' happy memories. We brought on board to harmonize the ecological community where the parents and grandparents were hand in hand with us, as all the above wouldn't have been possible without their continuous support and suggestions.
Rangoli, the art of making freehand designs with colored powder, has been the domain of women. We have succeeded in breaking the stereotype with more boys taking part in it when we conducted the online Rangoli event to exhibit the creativity of our Tassians. Drawing and painting session. There is nothing more wonderful than the freedom of expression. Freedom not necessarily through words, but also through expressions. Drawing and painting sessions at TAS allow the students to express themselves. These skills and creations make our life more meaningful and help us see the world in a different way.
School assemblies provide the students opportunities to overcome their stage fear and enable them to enhance their confidence. Through assemblies, we at TAS try to inculcate moral and ethical values in them. The pandemic could not stop us from conducting online assemblies. The children, with the help and guidance of their parents, recorded videos at their respective homes. These were merged and presented before the audience. Christmas celebration was organized with fun and fervor. Carols were sung and Christmas stories were presented to bring out the true spirit of giving without expecting anything in return.
Conducting online exams were completely new for us as teachers as well as for the students. It was like surprise test where all of us, including students, had to perform well. Let's talk about the challenges faced by teachers and students. They both spend much of their time in front of a screen. For teachers, there was no scope for experiment with assessment method with students, and collecting answer sheets and evaluation of the same were a difficult task. Let's take a look on the student side. As they were unfamiliar with the tool, it made it difficult for them to understand and use the platform. During exams, they had to face internet issues and could not have fun with their friends. So now, how did we overcome those challenges? There were sessions conducted in our school within teachers to choose the right platform. We made recorded videos about these new platforms for both students and parents, which they actively took part in. In this process, students learned about new tools. They learned about self-motivation, making themselves disciplined, and being honest during exams.
With our teenagers, we had a lot of fun making facial masks at home. Our teenagers flew to different countries on the wings of their imagination. We had a few public speakers. They reveled at debates and declamation.
Our students hosted a Teachers' Day celebration and surprised us all. We did our lessons along with melodies played on the pakhavaj and the guitar. They also did projects on their favorite musical instruments. They enjoyed it all.
At the Academy School, the intention has always been to amalgamate the core values with the personality of every Tassian, such that it becomes a part of their existence, their entirety. We were proud to see Deshna Piyush Surana display the core value of empathy as she donated her hair to an NGO that creates wigs for cancer patients. Arnav Lad displayed the core value of self-actualization when he appealed to the people around him to be careful, mindful, and safe amidst the pandemic. Avika and her classmates displayed the core value of gratitude through their EVS projects. The grade 4 students were not limited by the pandemic when they displayed the core value of nation building through role plays when covering the topics of unity in diversity and mock parliament. This picture sums up the fortitude, innovation, and most of all, the resilience that each and every person at TAS cherishes. I hope our presentation was successful in giving each one of you a glimpse of the creative initiatives that we undertook in the most disruptive times that we have faced in our living memory. Thank you so much.
About You, muotiverkkokauppasi, josta löydät yli 900 tuotemerkkiä.
Hello everyone, this is Effie Baksavana. I am a music teacher, author and global educationist. I have created and applied a pioneering teaching method called Let's Play Boomwalkers, learn English through music and play. My method has been used with great success at schools all over the world, primary schools, kindergarten, nursery schools, English schools, special education schools, university and educational institutions. During the pandemic, I have accomplished over 150 online sessions. One of the biggest concerns I had was how I will continue to engage my children and keep an eye on their progress from distance. So this means that I had to focus on what really matters the most. I had to prioritize the creation of an open and clear channel of communication with both children and parents. Relationship with parents is very important, especially nowadays that we are teaching virtually. So teacher and parent are a team. Music sets off emotional responses and kickstarts creativity. So music education is very important for children because children benefit so much in so many ways. So my concern was for children not to give up on the great impact and the benefits that they gain through music. Teaching online means simplicity and communication. Get the right digital learning platform, choose the right tools and stick to them. Keep the technology simple. It's okay to be stressed because we were not all being born experts in technology. Practice and study for personal improvement. Good planning and organization is always important. Start with procedures just like in the classroom. Keep to a regular schedule. Begin or end with a song. That's what I do. I begin with a good morning song and I end the session with a goodbye song. It's good for children to know what to expect when they get online. Set daily and weekly goals. Say, for example, today we are going to learn the colors of the boomwalkers, and by the end of the week we will be able to arrange the boomwalkers in the order color given above. Be flexible with children. Don't ask more than they can give. Provide clear expectations. Children can learn more when they know the goal of the lesson and can see how the activities are aligned with skills and ideas we expect them to master. So it is very important to give clear and solid examples. What do I really mean with all these? So I say to the children that today we are not going to use the boomwalkers as musical instruments, we're not going to play a song, but we are going to use them as music kinetic material. We are going to start with simple movements on our body, then we're going to go on with more complicated movements, and finally we are going to put on music and carry out what we have learned. So we can start with simple movements like tapping the boom markers on our palm, on our knee, on our shoulder, on our foot, front and back, back and front. And then we can do a more complicated movement like tapping on our palm, tapping on the floor and turning around. We can also use the boom markers and compare them with a rhythm activity. We can tap the boom markers and say, where else can we tap them? We can tap them front, we can tap them back, we can tap them left, right, side by side, and so it goes on. So these kinds of activities are a very, very easy way to engage the children in front of the camera. And believe me, that is the most important thing that we have to cope with. So I keep my activity short, and the most important is that I want my children to keep on moving. I don't want them to sit in front of the camera and just look at me or just listen at me. I want to keep them moving, I want them to be active, I want them to take part in all the session. So that really means that I mustn't forget to keep my energy up. Many times when we do an activity and the kids get a little bit frustrated, a little bit tired or bored, and it's okay, especially when we have to do with young learners, it's okay to change the activity and do something else. We can even take breaks. It's okay to take breaks sometimes. So as I said, I like doing my sessions interactive and accessible, mini lessons with active learning, and keep children motivated and moving forward. I also like having my children to be presenters and present a project in the online class. I always establish clear guidance for children collaboration, and I create a sense of community by encouraging them to engage in online discussion, which is also very important nowadays that we are teaching virtually. When we finish the session, I always leave a little bit of time, for discussion, reaction, comments, whatever the children feel like doing. So now I will give you some examples of what exactly do I mean by the things I said above. So now I have here the red boom marker, the yellow and the green. So what do? I divide my children into 3 teams, the red team, the yellow team and the green team. Each time I show the red boom marker, then the team with the red boom markers has to tap its boom marker. The same with the yellow and the same with the green. I can even combine the colors, so we can have the red and the yellow boom markers tapping, or the yellow and the green boom markers tapping. They can even tap both 3 teams together. I can also combine the tapping with the speech and the movement, which is very important. What do I mean? I can say that the red boom marker has to tap and say, I want an orange. I want an orange. The yellow team will say, Effie wants an orange. Effie wants an orange. And then the green team will say, do you want an orange? Do you want an orange? And so it goes on. I also divide the children into 2 groups, the loudly group and the softly group. So I do have made cards with the signs of L, which means loudly, and the S, which means softly. So when I show the L, the team with the L has to tap the boom markers loudly on the floor, and the team with the S has to tap the boom markers softly on its palm. And so it goes on. So in this way, these kinds of activities, games, help children to concentrate, to cooperate, to take group decisions, even if we are teaching online. So through Let's Play Boom Markers method, children can get creative through communication, collaboration and critical thinking. Another way that we can use the boom markers is to play songs. Yes, not only games, activities, music kinetic, rhythms, but we can play a song. It's very easy to play a song because we don't need to read the notes, but all we need to do is use the colors. We have to tap the colors and the boom markers according to the colors we have. So these kinds of activities are very easy for children to learn to play a song, even if they are very little. So when we finish the session, I ask for parents to send me videos with the children presenting what we have done on the session. So they send me videos with children playing songs with the boom markers, doing activities, tapping the boom markers with rhythm. And when we connect again with the children, what we really do is go through the videos and we discuss and combine the way that they play. So this is an activity, believe me, that the children really enjoy very much. Now, what about resources? It's very important to provide easy access to resources. So I always send material I have created for my method to the parents so they can use the material together with the children. Evaluate teaching using resources and use a variation of instructional methods. Fortunately, there are a lot of online free resources with games, activities, puzzles that we can use for children of all ages, and they can definitely help them with learning at home and they can keep their brain active. Now, teaching online doesn't mean that we have to change expectations. Keep the expectations high and just change the approach, change the way you are teaching. Provide immediate feedback through online knowledge. And very, very important, never forget to ask how the children are coping and how they have been up to. That means that we can make time to socialize with the children online, even if it's virtual, because that is very important. Children have missed a stimulating and enriching environment, listening opportunities, and social interaction. I never forget to say how proud I am of the children, and I never forget to praise them every time for every effort they give. So since I have been teaching for over 20 years now, I have a motto. And my motto is, let's make education fun. Not only for children and kids, but for adults, because everyone loves to learn through fun and through play. So for me, what is really important and what really matters is the way we teach, is the method, is the strategy. So children learn when we teach with love, with passion and enthusiasm. So stay safe, take care, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Byron. I'm based in the United Kingdom and my work is mainly in teaching research skills to PhDs and postdocs. The title of my presentation is Creative Reflective Practice and Idea Generation. And the background to this is something that's well known in academia but not widely practiced. And this is the fact that when you take a group of people, whether this is a group of students in small group learning, or it could be an academic committee who are generating ideas. When you look at the performance of groups of people generating ideas together in the same room, it's much lower than the number of ideas that you would get if you put those people in a separate room each and had no communication between them. So this nominal group shown on the left always produces more ideas and higher quality ideas than the brainstorm group. This has been well known in research circles for many years, but it doesn't seem to have stopped the practice of brainstorm groups working together. Anyway, that's another issue, but what I want to just illustrate here is that this methodology has been used for many studies on trying to find out what causes this drop in creativity in brainstorm groups, just by comparing these two. At the end of the timed session, the ideas from the nominal group are collated and any repeats only count as one. And by repeating this experiment with different people, different problems and so on, different time periods, a genuine comparison can be made between the two. And this is the common outcome that you get. This has been published in many papers. You get roughly a factor of 2 more ideas and higher quality ideas in the nominal group. And some of the individual causes of this, some factors that contribute to this drop in individual creativity are listed here. I'm not going to go into those in detail, but suffice it to say there's still ongoing research about these issues and how, in fact, you might reduce them in the group situation, and techniques have been developed to improve the performance of the brainstorm group. So this particular research interested me because I wanted to find out more about what was happening in the brainstorm situation, but also later on in the nominal group situation with regard to individual creativity. So I was interested in developing techniques for reflective practice that could be conducted in real time. And my initial work is shown here. This was published a while ago. I used this to look at the emotional engagement of individuals in nominal and brainstorm groups to compare the performance. This just shows a typical result from a brainstorm group, 4 participants, and it's based on the Yerkes-Dodson curve shown at right angles on the left. This curve is a plot of performance versus the emotional demands or the degree of emotional engagement that we have. And this curve seems to be universal. It applies to any kind of activity. And it's got 3 regions. The lowest region is low emotional engagement. In other words, where in terms of group activity, we feel excluded or frustrated or bored, not able to engage. And then there's the creative section, region 2 in the middle, where we're at our best. We approach the peak of performance. We're decisive, alert, stimulated, coming up with ideas. And then if there's any greater emotional engagement, our performance starts to drop again, and that's in region 3, and where we may become even tired after a while. Our creativity disappears first, we feel less alert, and so on. And what was interesting about this was to note that, well, quite apart from the fact that 4 people varied quite a lot, I did many repeats of this and saw the same kinds of patterns, but also that even after only 8 minutes, 3/4 of the group have already gone into that third zone and are not really contributing to idea generation. And a lot of this is simply due to those factors shown in that earlier slide, those group dynamic factors that influence our creativity over time. So I've looked at this with regard to emotion, and I wanted to dig a bit deeper now and find out what was really going on with the way we were thinking, to see whether that could explain this drop in performance when we work in a group. And so I looked at the idea of using attention, and I'm going to just give a very simple definition of attention, which is where our awareness is, where we are in our awareness. And we can first of all look at 2 different forms of attention, and to kind of simplify this, I've shown this diagram where we've got a larger character and a smaller character who are communicating together. But in this case, when our attention is outwardly directed, the larger character is, if you like, looking out into the real world, having sensual experiences, and the smaller character is a less active part of the mind that is perhaps our private thoughts or reflections, but that's not the dominant character when our attention is outwardly directed. But things are reversed when we direct our attention inwards. So here the dominant character is immersed in our imagination or our thoughts, if you like, and the lesser character is still aware of the world, but to a much reduced degree. Drawing from the language of creativity, creative problem solving, I further subdivided these forms of attention into 2 other modes of attention. So using divergence and convergence, and I've shown there when our attention is outwardly directed and divergent, we're scanning, passively observing, exploring, for example. But when our outward attention is convergent, then we're focusing on something. We're sensing, analyzing, making decisions, actively observing, and so on. And we can apply the same to when our attention is inwardly directed. So here we have when it's divergent inwards, this is basically imagining, visualizing, fantasizing, experiencing, daydreaming, and so on. And the opposite of that is when we're inwardly directing our attention, but it's convergent. We're thinking about something in specific. We're focusing. We're trying to remember something or analyzing and concentrating. But again, our awareness of the external world is somewhat diminished. Now, why I developed this model just based on personal observation, but also I started to, it's very easy to practice these 4 modes of attention. And I will say, of course, that, you know, we do actually randomly switch from one to the other, but you can practice staying in a particular mode of attention. And creativity is really concerned with, largely when we're looking for good ideas, new ideas, is more focused on divergent inward attention. So creativity can be nurtured through actively practicing switching between these 4 modes of attention and sustaining one's attention in them. And I'd just like to illustrate this, try and map the switching of attention onto the creative problem solving process. And by creative problem solving, I mean the standard 3-stage process of solving problems with new ideas. What is the problem or challenge? Where are the ideas to solve it? And how do I implement the ideas? And I just want to show what could happen with regard to attention switching when we follow that creative problem solving process. So here we go. Let's use a simple problem. How could I build a better mousetrap? So the first thing we do is we study the problem, study the challenge. What do we mean by build a better mousetrap? So our attention is directed in a convergent way outward. We then make an attention switch and go to a divergent inward mode and start asking questions about that challenge. One important question would be, why do I need a better mousetrap? We then do another attention switch when we answer the question. It converges now, and the answer to that question is in order to get rid of the mice. That then leads us to a more abstracted challenge. We need abstracted challenges if we want to get great ideas. So we've now got an abstracted challenge. How might I get rid of the mice? We then make another attention switch, and then we're still inwardly directing our attention, and we start to generate ideas. We explore our imagination. We might come up with ideas like using acoustics to scare the mouse off, or we might get rid of the mice at source by covering up the hole. We may wish to find a humane way of getting rid of the mice by capturing them and letting them go somewhere else. We may hire a cat. We may give them a harmless electric shock to retrain them, and so on and so on. We come up with ideas in this divergent inward mode, and then the final attention switch is when we select the best idea, and I would suggest this is a convergent outward exercise. We've listed our ideas and we then assess them. So that's, in a nutshell, the creative problem solving process. And as you can see, it involves a fair bit of switching of attention over the short term and over the long term. And this, in a very simple way, this explains why group brainstorming is not productive in terms of idea generation, because if one person is in a divergent inward state of attention and someone else speaks, in other words, they're being convergent outward, they're going to draw that person out of that inward mode. And this is what happens. Ideas get lost because of the randomness. It's kind of attention chaos in a group, with a group of people, when speech and thought are randomly interspersed. And that really does, in my view, account for the reduced creativity in brainstorming. But I'm just going to finish now by suggesting that this could be taken further. I am considering developing an app where a student could perhaps monitor where they are in attention over a period of time when they're engaged in a problem or a challenge. And in an ideal world, the teacher may have their own template for this. It may vary from time to time, but it would be interesting for the teacher to be able to look at the student's timeline and look at their own and see potential for areas of development where perhaps a student isn't spending enough time in that divergent inward state and generating sufficient ideas. So this is a little bit speculative, but it's ideas that I'm exploring in the future. And so far, I've started to do some work on this, and a friend of mine who's an artist has written, not using a timeline, but she has written a short account, a sort of a diary of the process through which she painted, and she found she was able to relate